I want you to picture um, the most remarkably ordinary person you know. Like, you know the exact type I'm talking about.
Oh, definitely.
The guy who fixes a broken lawnmower with duct tape and, proudly calls it engineering. Or the person who stands in the grocery aisle genuinely reading the nutritional info on cereal boxes, feeling this quiet sense of accomplishment about their fiber intake.
Right, right.
Or the neighbor who drags your garbage bins back from the curb on a rainy Tuesday without ever being asked. Just hold that perfectly mundane, decent person in your mind.
So we're talking about the archetype of the reliable suburbanite. I mean, the kind of person who forms the invisible functional glue of a quiet neighborhood.
Exactly. But here's the twist we are exploring in today's deep dive. What if that exact person, that 20% tipping, little league coaching paragon of normalcy, is secretly a vessel for an ancient, dark evil?
Oh, man.
And what if the most terrifying part isn't the evil itself, but the fact that they don't even know it?
See, that proposition just completely shatters the safety we associate with the mundane. It takes the concept of the banality of evil, which is, a term we usually reserve for massive historical atrocities, and it applies it to modern, comfortable, suburban life. It basically weaponizes our reliance on the ordinary.
And today, our deep dive takes us into a brilliant piece of source material that does exactly that. We're looking at an excerpt from a larger story titled The Neighborhood Covenant Society.
Such a great title.
It really is. And the specific section we're unpacking operates under the incredible title, My Daddy's an Evil Satanist. And he doesn't even know it.
With all the exclamation points, yeah.
With all the exclamation points. So the mission for our conversation today is to explore how the deeply mundane masks the supernatural, and to analyze the really unsettling central question this text raises about the unseen exchanges we make in our daily lives.
What's fascinating here is how the author plays with our conditioning. Because, we are trained by pop culture to expect evil to announce itself.
Right, like a big dramatic entrance.
Exactly. We look for a movie villain, someone mustache-twirling, steeped in shadow, fully self-aware of their malice. But this text argues something far more insidious. True, ancient darkness doesn't need to recruit cackling zealots. It finds a much easier foothold in the quiet, unexamined void of middle-aged suburban boredom.
Okay, let's unpack this void. Because to understand how a perfectly fine, sensible dad ends up in a dark ceremonial basement, we have to look at his psychological state before the supernatural even enters the picture.
Right.
And it all starts with a single piece of mail.
The inciting incident is entirely unremarkable. There are no demons appearing in clouds of sulfur. It's a flyer in a mailbox.
And the detail here is exquisite. The text notes that this flyer is sandwiched right between a furniture catalog and a property tax notice.
The ultimate camouflage.
The ultimate camouflage, but there's something off about it. It's printed on very heavy paper with a matte finish. It features a symmetrical, geometric logo that your eye tries to resolve but can't quite figure out.
Yeah, that optical illusion element.
Yeah. And then there are the words on it. Community, continuity, purpose.
That last word is the linchpin. Purpose. Because to understand why a practical guy doesn't just throw this in the recycling bin, we have to look at the sociology of his demographic.
Okay.
The text describes him as a man in the middle stretch of life. He has done everything society asked of him. He paid his taxes, raised his kid, maintained his lawn.
Checked all the boxes.
Checked all the boxes. And now he has hit this strange plateau where the structured milestones have just vanished. The air is thin, and he's just coasting. He is experiencing a profound, quiet alienation that he hasn't even admitted to himself.
Wow. I kept thinking about this in terms of biology, honestly. A successful parasite doesn't just attack the host. It mimics the host's own proteins to bypass the immune system.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. This flyer is doing the exact same thing to his moral immune system. It mimics the language of civic duty. But I have to push back a little here. He's an engineer at heart. He duct tapes things. Why didn't the weird, unresolved geometric logo or the vague, slightly ominous wording trigger some kind of alarm bell?
Well, because of how masterfully the trap is sprung when he actually engages with it. When he dials the number on the flyer, he isn't greeted by echoing chants or anything spooky.
Right.
He gets a woman with a warm, professional, entirely unmemorable voice.
Oh.
She pitches him on neighborhood forward thinking. She mentions there will be refreshments. And then she delivers the psychological kill shot. She says, "We've been hoping you'd call."
Oh, man, that line is devastating. He just thinks, what a nice thing to say.
It targets his deepest unmet need. To be told that he's specifically needed, that an entire community has been holding a space just for him, I mean, that is an intoxicating narrative for someone feeling invisible.
Yeah.
The supernatural entity isn't preying on greed or lust or rage. It is preying on his fundamentally human desire to matter.
So his psychological immune system is compromised, and the hook is fully set. How does the infection actually take hold? This brings us to Tuesday nights in the basement of a former Masonic lodge.
The setting is a textbook liminal space.
Yeah.
It's a place of transition that doesn't quite belong to the normal world. It's a building that used to be a lodge, and before that something else, and before that something completely unrecorded by city zoning. It has heavy stone walls and lighting that is described as warm but deeply wrong.
And the fire.
Yes. The text mentions a fire that burns without producing any smoke.
But inside this subtly terrifying room, you have the most hyper-ordinary gathering imaginable. I mean, the roster of the society is almost comical.
It really is.
There are 12 members. You've got an accountant, a retired school teacher, a landscaper, and a guy who restores vintage clocks as a hobby and actually brings them in for show and tell.
Just a completely standard local club.
Yeah. They wear sticky name tags. They follow a printed agenda. They sit around eating crustless sandwiches and a cheese plate, sipping sparkling water, and voting on road resurfacing. It sounds like an HOA meeting on steroids.
And that's the point, right? By grounding the supernatural in the excruciatingly mundane, the group provides him with an overwhelming sense of safety. He fits the demographic perfectly.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because they finish talking about the community garden, and then they transition into what the dad vaguely thinks of as the ceremonial portion.
Right.
And he doesn't even look too closely at it. There are candles, low murmuring, a strange center tile on the floor. The temperature in the room starts shifting, getting colder, then warmer, then settling on a temperature he doesn't even have a word for.
Yeah.
If he is such a practical guy, why doesn't his analytical brain just freeze at the sight of a smoke-free fire or an impossible temperature?
So we can explain that through a cognitive mechanism called normalcy bias. When the human brain is confronted with stimuli that drastically violate its understanding of the world, it often attempts to force that new information into an existing, safe framework, rather than accept the terrifying reality.
Oh, wow.
His brain is using predictive coding. He walked into what he believes is a community meeting. His brain expects municipal boredom, therefore it actively filters out the supernatural elements. It interprets the impossible temperature as a draft, or the smoke-free fire as a trick of the light.
So he is literally editing reality in real time to protect his comfort.
Exactly. And furthermore, consider his reaction after the ritual concludes. He drives home not feeling terrified or violated, but, quote, cleaned out and calm. He compares it to the feeling you get after a really good cry.
He thinks of it as a comforting prayer.
Yeah.
Like he feels like he's part of something older than himself.
Yeah, willful ignorance becomes his ultimate shield. He relies on a very simple, flawed syllogism. He is a good guy. He goes to a community meeting with other nice people. Therefore, whatever happens at the meeting must be good. The entity they are summoning doesn't have to fight his conscience, because his conscience has been entirely sedated by sparkling water and a vague sense of civic duty.
Which would almost be a victimless crime in a weird way if he lived in a vacuum. But he doesn't.
No, he does not.
While he is happily editing reality on Tuesday nights, there is someone else in his house who possesses an entirely different, incredibly sharp level of perception. We need to talk about the 9-year-old demonologist.
The daughter serves as the perfect epistemological counterweight to the father,
Definitely.
where he uses top-down processing, imposing his safe expectations onto reality. She uses bottom-up processing. She gathers raw sensory data without preconceptions.
And the text establishes her credibility beautifully. She reads rooms like other people read words. There's this heartbreaking detail about how she knew the family hamster was sick 2 days before it showed any physical symptoms.
Yeah.
She actually had to comfort her parents when it died, even though she was the one who had carried the burden of knowing first. It just paints a picture of a kid who is deeply, almost painfully observant.
As the audience, that hamster detail is our signal that we can trust her senses, even when her father's senses are totally failing him. So what sensory data is she actually picking up from these Tuesday nights?
It's all anomaly detection. Her dad comes home smelling faintly mineral and smoky, like the air inside a very old damp church.
Right.
He tracks in dark, rich soil on his shoes that is completely wrong for the local geography and the season. He starts murmuring unrecognizable syllables in his sleep syllables that make her own body react physically, like the atmospheric drop before a thunderstorm. And then she finds that silver pin with the unresolved geometric logo in his laundry.
And notice how she responds to this terrifying data. I mean, a typical child might just have nightmares or hide under the covers.
Not her. I love her methodology so much. She turns her closet door into an FBI-style murder board.
It's amazing.
It's 6 pieces of loose-leaf paper taped together. It's color-coded. She uses her prize sticker collection to mark dates and occurrences. She builds a massive cross-referencing system.
Just incredible.
Imagine being a 9-year-old kid in this situation. You know something is deeply wrong with your incredibly boring, sweet dad. You can't go to the police. You can't go to your teachers. So she resorts to academic sources and an extremely detailed Reddit thread on ancient demonology just to figure out what is happening in that basement.
The juxtaposition is brilliant. The adult, who should be the protector, is oblivious, lulled to sleep by crustless sandwiches. The child is awake, doing rigorous academic research on ancient evils to save him.
Yeah.
But as impressive as her research is, the most chilling piece of evidence on that 6-page chart isn't the church smell or the phonetic sleep syllables.
No, it's the municipal infrastructure.
Exactly. The most frightening data point she tracks is the undeniable fact that the neighborhood is actually improving.
Good wild.
There are pristine new pedestrian crossings near the elementary school. The community garden is producing vegetables at an entirely unnatural rate. The sidewalks are miraculously smooth, devoid of any cracks or weeds.
So at 9 years old, she fundamentally understands a core truth of the universe that her middle-aged, educated father is completely ignoring. You don't get something for nothing.
She understands the sociological equivalent of thermodynamics.
Ooh, explain that.
Well, the law of conservation of energy states that energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed. She applies this exact logic to her neighborhood. If the infrastructure is miraculously improving without budget increases or visible construction crews, someone or something is paying for it. The entity isn't operating a charity, it's an exchange. And she is terrified of what invisible, vital energy is being siphoned out of her father to secure those smooth sidewalks.
So we have these two entirely incompatible realities coexisting in one suburban house. We have the dad's comfortable, heavily edited denial, and the daughter's meticulously gathered, terrifying truth.
Yeah.
This inevitably links to a collision, which happens on a perfectly ordinary Sunday morning.
Setting this confrontation on a Sunday morning is a vital narrative choice, actually. Sunday is the cultural antithesis of the dark, liminal Tuesday night. It represents ultimate domestic safety.
Is peak dad mode. He's sitting at the kitchen table in his old cardigan. He's eating pancakes. He's reading the sports section. And she just walks in, sits down, slaps the 6-page color-coded chart on the table between them, and doesn't even give him time to prepare a parental dismissal. She just says, flat out, Daddy, you're in a satanic cult.
It's a flawless tactical strike. She bypasses all small talk and forces him to look at the raw data.
I want to focus on his reaction here because it is so painfully human. He goes through a micro-progression of defensive emotions. First, there's a flicker of amusement, the classic parent humoring an imaginative kid.
Right.
But then he actually looks at the chart. His eyes narrow, and he hits this profound stillness. The daughter recognizes this specific face. It's the face he makes when a piece of undeniable truth is landed, and he is internally scrambling to manage the cognitive dissonance.
He attempts the standard brush-off. He uses his calmest voice. Sweetheart, this is the Neighborhood Covenant Society.
But the brush-off dies in his throat when she starts pointing to the evidence. She has the geometric symbol cross-referenced with obscure academic sources. She has the unseizable soil samples taped to the board.
She brought soil samples.
She did. She has his sleep murmurs written down phonetically, matching ancient summoning texts. He cannot logic his way out of her data set. As an engineer, he respects data too much to just call her crazy.
Yeah, he can't deny it.
So he closes the chart. He sits there for a long time. And his ultimate defense, the only thing he can summon to justify his continued participation in this reality, is to say, the sidewalks really are much better.
And the daughter's reply is the emotional climax of the scene. She says, I know, that's the part that worries me most.
Man. So what does this actually mean for his character? How can he sit there, look at undeniable, scientifically gathered proof that he is partaking in a dark, supernatural ritual that is draining his soul, and still defend the group with a straight face?
Because the confrontation forces him across a psychological boundary. He moves past the need for assumed innocence and enters the realm of complicity.
Oh, wow.
He can no longer claim normalcy bias. He knows. And this leads to the philosophical core of the entire text. Because he doesn't just ignore his daughter's findings, he goes back to the Tuesday meeting and he actually confronts the group with her accusations.
I was genuinely shocked when he did that. I assumed he would just bury his head in the sand and pretend the Sunday morning conversation never happened.
His decision to confront the group shows that he does possess a lingering need for internal logical consistency. But the response he gets from the society members is profound. They don't deny the accusations.
No.
They don't suddenly transform into monsters with fangs and attack him. The retired school teacher just looks at him and explains the underlying mechanics of their reality. They tell him, the world has always run on exchange, that something is always being offered and something is always being received.
They basically tell him, the question isn't whether you're participating in a dark exchange. You always were. The only question is whether you are conscious of it.
Exactly. The cult is articulating a fundamental, unavoidable law of existence. The transaction trading energy for comfort is happening everywhere, constantly. They're simply offering him the choice to be an aware participant in the trade. They're trading some undefined spiritual or vital energy to this ancient entity in return for municipal improvements.
It's the ultimate, terrifying HOA fee. You want a new crosswalk so the kids can walk to school safely? We just need a little bit of your eternal soul every Tuesday night.
Right.
But they phrase it with such extreme reasonableness.
And that very reasonableness, the polite, bureaucratic tone of the explanation, is what allows the father to make his final, devastating choice.
Which brings us to the resolution of the story. The dad comes home from that meeting, where the society finally laid all their supernatural cards on the table. The daughter is waiting up for him. She asks the million-dollar question. Going back.
His response is arguably the most chilling line in the entire narrative.
He pauses, thinks about it, and says, I don't know yet the cheese plate is very good.
It is a staggering testament to the allure of comfort over morality. I mean, he is fully aware that he is serving as a conduit for an ancient evil.
Yeah.
But he is willing to risk his spiritual safety and potentially the safety of the world because he enjoys the snacks, he likes feeling needed, and he appreciates the smooth roads. He looks at the terrifying expanse of the supernatural and decides the convenience of his mundane life is worth the price of admission.
And meanwhile, the daughter realizes she is entirely on her own. She watches this man, who makes her pancakes and wears sensible khaki pants, realize he's trading away pieces of the universe and just shrug it off.
It's heartbreaking.
So she goes to her room, she pulls out a fresh piece of paper, tapes it to the closet door next to the others, and labels it Phase 2. And she uses her gold stickers, the ones she specifically saves for the most important things. She is unilaterally preparing for a supernatural war that her father lacks the courage to even acknowledge.
The narrative beautifully distills our two major takeaways. First, the human desire for purpose, community, and routine is so powerful that it can blind us to the most glaring, terrifying red flags. We will tolerate almost any darkness if it is packaged in a way that makes us feel like we belong.
And the second takeaway is that chilling concept of the law of exchange, the idea that every comfort we experience has a hidden, often heavy cost. The 9-year-old daughter understands that a hyper-fertile community garden demands a dark fertilizer.
The author uses the supernatural as a lens to highlight a very natural human tendency, our infinite willingness to ignore the cost of our own comfort, provided we aren't the ones directly paying the bill.
Which brings me to you, listening to this right now. We spent this deep dive talking about the literal exchanges in this fictional story. A Little League coach knowingly offering up his essence so his neighborhood can have a nice new crosswalk. But I want you to look at the architecture of your own life. Think about the frictionless, one-click economy we all live in.
The world has always run on exchange. Something is always being offered, and something is always being received.
Look at the perfectly curated algorithms that feed you exactly the content you want to see the moment you feel a little lonely. Think about the one-click deliveries that drop manufactured goods on your doorstep within hours. Think about the free apps that map your daily commute to save you 5 minutes of traffic. If our modern society is built entirely on these unseen, frictionless exchanges, are we really the oblivious fathers in this scenario? Or if we consider the invisible labor, the data mining, the environmental toll, and the sprawling global supply chains that make our instant gratification possible, are we actually the entities in the basement? Are we the ones feeding off the unseen sacrifices of others just to keep our own personal sidewalks smooth? And if you found out exactly what your conveniences cost, would you stop? Or would you just grab your duct tape, fix your lawnmower, and pretend you didn't know? Keep that in mind next time you find a glossy flyer in your mailbox.